How did Sparta fans react when ex-SLAVIA player Matěj Jurásek made his debut for Sparta this weekend? What happened when Jurásek went to speak to the Sparta Ultras after the match? What did Jurásek say to the fans? And what does the expression to make amends mean? Hello everybody, what's going on? Footglish Podcast is back, your favorite podcast about learning English and football. By the way, I have got a new Instagram page dedicated to this podcast, so if you love what I do here and want to support it, please search on Instagram, search for Love Football Learn English. The Instagram account is called Love Football Learn English, and follow me there, and then you will be able to see some shorter videos from these podcasts. All right, let's get started. So what's today's episode about? Well, it is about a footballer called Matěj Jurásek, who has just joined Sparta Prague on loan. He's a new Sparta Prague acquisition, let's say, on loan from Norwich City, of all teams, from the Championship. And yeah, this sounds like a great idea for Sparta. But there is one small issue. He used to play for Slavia Prague. So obviously you can imagine how the fans of both teams must feel. And that's what today's episode is about. I'm going to focus on the language of conflict, rivalry, and reconciliation. Reconciliation means becoming friendly again after a disagreement, let's say. All right, so let's talk about Matěj Jurásek and learn some vocabulary in the process. That is the idea of this episode, and I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, Matěj Jurásek, from Slavia hero to Sparta outcast. That is the title here. Imagine joining a new club and being told by some of the fans that they don't want you there. Now imagine those fans are your own supporters. That is exactly what happened to Matěj Jurásek this weekend. Jurásek has just joined Sparta Prague on a season-long loan from Norwich City, with Sparta having the option to make the move permanent, right? So there's an option to buy. But there's one major problem. Jurásek is a former Slavia player, and in Prague, in the Czech Republic, this is not exactly a negligible detail. Slavia and Sparta are fierce rivals. And when I say fierce, I really mean fierce. They absolutely hate each other. They hate each other's guts. They are on opposite sides of one of the biggest football rivalries in the Czech Republic. Not one of the biggest. It is the biggest rivalry you can see here in my country. So when Jurásek crossed the divide and joined Sparta, some supporters were furious. And it wasn't only because he had played for Slavia. There's more to it. It was his previous comments and behavior that had already antagonized some Sparta fans in the past. In other words, he had wound them up before he had even kicked the ball for his new club. So we are talking about the Sparta fans really not taking kindly to this transfer. I'm not even talking about Slavia fans. They basically now consider him a rat. Just a side note. Not Slavia fans don't like him too for this, because it's a betrayal for them, obviously. They are gonna absolutely hate his guts when he plays against them. Anyway, this is about the Sparta fans, his own supporters, his own fans. So what happened when Sparta played against Teplice on Saturday? Well, it didn't exactly go according to plan. I mean, Sparta won 4-1, so that part of the plan went well, at least. But Jurásek's introduction, because he came on as a sub, it went terribly wrong. But actually, it happened even before Jurásek had come onto the pitch. What happened? So sections of Sparta support were already making their feelings known. Now, this is mainly the ultras, right? Sparta, as most of the bigger clubs in Europe, most of the traditional clubs in Europe have their own ultras. So these are the most radical, the most, let's say, the loudest, for some people, the best fans, because they can support your club for the whole game, but also they are often quite radical and sort of, fierce. They just don't take any prisoners, basically. And they came up with a chant for Matěj Jurásek. In Czech, it goes like this: My tě tu nechceme, which means we don't want you here. And then there is a part which says something about you going to fuck yourself, basically. I'm sorry for this language. I should beep it out, probably. I hope I don't get a strike on YouTube. But basically, part of the chant is go F yourself, right? And then something about him being a bitch or something like that. So imagine they came up with this chant. It rhymed and it was well rehearsed by the fans. And then as soon as Jurásek was on the pitch warming up before the game, I think it even happened, they started singing this chant. So imagine how the player must have felt. Although, to be fair, he should have known this was going to happen. He probably did know. So the atmosphere became increasingly hostile towards the player. And then, as I said, Sparta were actually playing very well. They eventually won the match 4-1 with Alcocer scoring twice and adding an assist. But while the team were celebrating their victory, another drama was unfolding in the stands. Jurásek eventually came on in the 74th minute for his Sparta debut. And instead of being welcomed by his new supporters, because that's what normally happens, right? When you have a new signing, you're excited, right? Because you want to see some changes at your club, and you're hoping that any kind of signing, the jury is always out, but usually the new signings, they get extra sort of positivity from the fans, because the fans are excited about something new, someone new. But not in this case. Instead of being welcomed by his new supporters, Matěj Jurásek was booed by some of them. And it was quite loud. I think it was the section of the ultras, if I'm honest. Every time he touched the ball, he was reminded that some fans had not forgotten his Slavia past. But to be fair, Jurásek didn't completely disappear. He decided to face the music. He faced the music head on. He didn't hide. As if he almost expected it. And to be fair, he must have known this was going to happen. He looked dangerous, delivered crosses, and even came close to scoring. He was quite good on the night, we have to say. And there were signs that some supporters were willing to give him a chance. But the real confrontation came after the final whistle. As the Sparta players went over to the supporters to celebrate the victory, the ultras demanded that Jurásek come forward. He initially hesitated. The situation was tense. His teammates and coach Brian Priske were nearby, and eventually Jurásek went over to the supporters. Actually, Jurásek went there with the coach Brian Priske. They went together. He went there as if he was his father or something. So, this was all happening. This was all unfolding, the drama. And basically, he was asked to speak to the fans, and first of all, they were singing this famous chant to him again of Sparta fans not wanting him at the club, and him basically the wish of the Sparta fans for him to fuck off. Sorry for using this language again. Okay, a milder version of that could be go to hell. They wanted him to go to hell. They didn't want him to stay at Sparta. They wanted him to go back to Slavia. Yeah, and then they started even asking in unison. They started asking for an apology. They demanded an apology because basically what the coach Brian Priske was doing, he was sort of like he was almost begging the fans to give Jurásek another chance. Jurásek was standing there like a man, right? He was facing the reality. He wasn't hiding, which is something that most football fans really respect, especially these tough boys from the ultras. They respect when someone isn't hiding and they are ready to be shouted at. And if they put their head down, which is, I believe, what Jurásek did, he put his head down and he genuinely looked humbled and ready to make things better. Yeah, but he was also asking for a chance, and this is what his coach Brian Priske was doing too. But at some point they started chanting, "Apologize, apologize, apologize," and he was really forced to apologize. By the way, they were holding microphones like these. The player had to speak into the microphone, which I thought was hilarious. But you know what? He looked, considering the fact that he's quite young. I think he's around 22 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He was handling the situation quite well, and he did indeed apologize. He apologized for his previous comments about Sparta and made it clear that he now wanted to fight for the club and earn the supporters' trust. Yeah, he wanted to earn the supporters' trust. In other words, he was trying to make amends. And yeah, that's his only chance, really. That's the only thing he can do. And the Sparta fans should give him a chance, in my opinion. Definitely they should. Yeah, so he was trying to put the past behind him, basically. And most importantly, he was trying to win the fans over. That was the whole idea of this. I don't know, theater. It was a bit of a theater there, to be fair. But it was all the right call, because if this hadn't happened, because this is what usually happens, right? The fans, the players walk up to the stand, especially after a victory, but even after a defeat, you have to walk up to the stands and you talk to your supporters. You clap your hands, thanking them for their support. That's what you do, whether it's a win, draw, or defeat. But in this case, it was made special because of Matěj Jurásek. Whether Matěj Jurásek succeeds is another question, because football fans have long memories. They do not forget. Jurásek has already crossed the divide from Slavia to Sparta. Now he has to cross another divide, the one between himself and the Sparta supporters. He needs to earn their trust. He needs to prove his critics wrong. And he needs to show that he's prepared to fight for the shirt. For the Sparta shirt, of course. Maybe if he scores the winning goal in a derby against Slavia, which is coming soon, everything will suddenly change. Just imagine this. Just imagine him scoring against his former club. Would he celebrate out of respect for Slavia and Slavia fans, or would he not? Who knows? Who knows? I want this to happen, to be fair. I would like to see that happen, regardless of the score in that game. Maybe the fans will forgive him. Maybe they will even start singing his name. Maybe they will start singing his praises. Who knows? But for now, Jurásek has a lot of work to do. The jury is out. He has gone from being a Slavia player to a Sparta player, from antagonizing Sparta fans to apologizing to them, and from being told, "We don't want you here," to trying to convince them, "Give me a chance." So the big question is, can Matěj Jurásek actually win over the Sparta fans? Or has he already burnt his bridges with the people he now desperately needs on his side? All right, guys, I think you probably noticed that I prepared most of this as a script, and I also tried to add my own sort of spin on it, my own sort of comments to this script. I don't like reading the script 100%, but the idea of this script is, of course, that it gives me the chance to teach you some vocabulary. And today is the vocabulary that we use for conflict, rivalry, and reconciliation. That's what I promised. That's what you're getting in this episode of the Footglish Podcast. If you're enjoying this, give this episode a like on the YouTube channel. All right, let's go. Here is the Language Corner. All right, guys, welcome back to the Language Corner. As always, in this part of the show, I'm going to go through the language that we heard in the main part and clarify it to you. And the idea is that you guys learn something new, or at least practice some vocabulary that you may not use enough in your daily life. And as usual, yes, this is a podcast about football, but you know what? Most of the stuff that you're learning here is applicable and usable or useful outside football too. So bear that in mind. Keep it in mind. This is not just about football. Yes, we are using football context, real life football context to learn. Yeah, because it helps us memorize it. It helps us relate to that idea, right? It helps us get the meaning out of context. And that's how you should learn vocabulary these days. It's the modern approach. Hell yeah, that's what we are doing here. So let's go through the language. All right, his previous comments had antagonized some Sparta fans. So we have an interesting verb here, antagonize. So what did Jurásek actually do? I think he said many things, as normally happens between the rival players, but of rival teams. But I remember distinctly that after winning the title, he was seen on camera singing with the speaker of the Slavia Ultras, singing this not such a nice chant, which basically, it describes Sparta as a bitch. And this is basically each of those two clubs have something on the other club. One of them sings anti-Semitic chant. The other one sings about the other team's death. And it's really not nice at all. And he was seen on camera singing one of those chants. I think it was the one about Sparta being a bitch or something like that, as a Slavia player. So that really upset the Sparta fans. That made them angry. That made them hostile towards this player. So if you make someone angry, if you upset someone really badly, we can say you antagonize someone. It's a little bit more formal, by the way, yeah? A little bit more formal. So Jurásek managed to antagonize Sparta fans long before he became a Sparta player. He had already wound some Sparta fans up before joining the club. Now we're talking about the same context here. So to wind someone up, wind. Imagine when you are winding up some sort of machine which starts, like, there used to be some sort of old, like a toy with a dancer rotating around this axis, but to make it work, to make it dance and hear the music coming out of the device, you had to wind it up. Yeah. So you can also wind up physically something like this to make it, to kind of like turn it on, to make it work. But it's also used in the sense of deliberately annoying someone or irritating someone. Yeah. Imagine two friends in a pub, and one is a bit cheeky and maybe a little bit drunk, and tries to make fun of the other one. And the one that is being the victim can say, hey, are you winding me up here? Why? Stop winding me up. I'm not in the mood for this, right? So he has wound up Sparta fans before, basically, right? He irritated them. He annoyed them deliberately, on purpose. Jurásek crossed the divide from Slavia to Sparta. I think this is quite self-evident or self-explanatory. When you cross the divide, you move from one side of a major disagreement, rivalry, or conflict to the other, right? So this is a bit bizarre, to be honest with you, because mostly when people are in one camp or the other, they don't tend to betray their side, even if, there has to be some sort of special circumstance. And there was one, because he went to Norwich City, and then I think he was sold to Norwich City, if I'm not mistaken. And he was not very successful there. He hasn't really, I think he was struggling with injuries as well last season in the championship. So I think he wanted to restart his career. And probably Slavia didn't want him back. So Sparta tried their luck and they succeeded. They managed to get him on loan from Norwich. And Bob's your uncle. He has crossed the divide. Jurásek faced a hostile reception on his Sparta debut. Yeah, debut is your first game for the club, right? But to face a hostile reception, it means to face something means you have to sort of experience it, right? And in this scale, hostile means sort of unfriendly, right? Unfriendly and aggressive as well. So he was not welcomed positively, not at all. The reception means how he's welcomed. So to face a hostile reception means to be welcomed in an unfriendly or aggressive way, basically. Jurásek was on the receiving end of some strong criticism from the ultras. So when you are on the receiving end of something, you are the person who is the victim, right? To be on the receiving end, right? So one person is attacking, one person is receiving the attacks or criticism or negative comments, or in this case, some rude chants. So Jurásek was definitely on the receiving end. And Jurásek was trying to make amends with the Sparta fans. Remember how he walked up to the ultras, to the ultra stand after the game? Well, that was his way of trying to make amends, and he will be trying to make amends by playing well, hopefully, for his team. To make amends is a formal phrase which is used when you want to repair a relationship after doing something wrong, okay? So it's like almost similar to the phrasal verb to make it up to someone, right? So you do something wrong, I don't know, you cheat on your girlfriend. It's quite a bad example, but imagine you cheat on your girlfriend, she finds out, but she decides to give you another chance, she forgives you, but you will have to make amends if you want to repair this, because the trust was broken, right? So to make amends, a good phrase to learn for sure. He needs to put the past behind him. I think this is not too hard. So he needs to put the past behind him and focus on playing for Sparta. Put the past behind you means to stop thinking about what happened in the past, stop being affected by it mentally, and sort of forget about what happened, right? And move on. Yeah, you need to move on and start over, right? Jurásek is going to have to win the Sparta fans over. I like this phrasal verb, to win someone over, which means to make effort to gradually make someone like or support you. You have to make effort. You have to work hard to win someone over, to win their favor, right? Especially if they initially dislike you or distrust you, right? So maybe something happened again. Like, you remember that example I gave you with you cheating on your wife or girlfriend? Well, it will be a lot of hard work for you to win your girlfriend over. Yeah, you have to win her over again. Yeah, so that's to win someone over. He needs to earn the supporters' trust. So that's a good collocation, to earn somebody's trust, which means to gradually show someone that you're reliable, honest, and you deserve their support, right? So to earn your trust. Oh, hopefully I am earning your trust as a podcaster and as an English teacher by publishing these episodes about football and also teaching you some vocabulary in the process. That is my way of earning your trust. Maybe one day you decide to support me. Don't forget, there is a Hero page. The link is in the description. One day, if you realize that I'm giving you a lot of value, that's the idea behind it. That's the way that any content creators have to earn the trust of their audience, basically, right? By producing or churning out or publishing a lot of quality content. So that's the idea here. Right. He needs to prove his critics wrong. Okay, so a good phrase to learn: to prove someone wrong. It means to show through your actions or achievements that people who doubted you made a mistake. Yeah, they made a mistake about not trusting you. They made a mistake about doubting you. So maybe you doubted me as the podcaster. You thought, hey, Zdenek, this is unprofessional. Your sound sucks sometimes. Your camera isn't very good. Your background is shitty. Maybe that's what you thought about me. I don't know. I don't know, honestly. But the idea is that it's my job to prove the critics wrong. There will always be critics. There will always be people who don't like something. You cannot please everyone. But what I'm trying to do here is to prove these people wrong. Okay, maybe I managed to win you guys over in the end. That's the idea. I earn your trust. Well, okay, so you see, this stuff, this vocabulary is so useful even outside football. I can use it to talk about podcasting. How wonderful. Okay, and finally, has Jurásek already burnt his bridges with the Sparta supporters? This is a great phrase, a great idiom. Okay, imagine a camp, a Sparta camp, and Slavia camp, and there's a river between them, and of course there is a bridge over the river. It's like reality, because I think actually those two clubs are separated by the river Vltava. So it's a good example and something you can imagine easily. So imagine if you burn the bridges. It's like you leave one club. It's like when you are leaving a job and you just tell everybody to fuck off, basically. you tell everybody, hey, I didn't even enjoy working with you anyway. I'm happy to be leaving. So you do that, and then you don't expect to ever come back, basically. When you do that, I hate doing that. I usually try to be friendly, because you never know. You might come back one day, right? So don't burn your bridges. Don't burn the bridge behind you when you're crossing to the other camp. In this case, when you're going from the Slavia camp, crossing the bridge to the Sparta camp. Why burn the bridge? Leave the bridge leave the bridge working. Leave it alive. Leave it undamaged, unscathed. Leave it alone. Don't burn it. Any kind of burning, in my opinion, is considered arson. You know what's arson? It's the crime of intentionally burning something down, or starting a fire, intentionally starting a fire in order to hurt someone. I think that's called arson. Obviously, if you make a campfire, that's not considered an arson. But unless you burn down the whole forest or something. Yeah. But anyway, to burn the bridges means to damage a relationship so badly that it becomes difficult or impossible to return to the way it was before. When you leave a club, I think it's a really bad idea to burn the bridges, or to burn your bridges with someone. All right, guys, that's it. That's it for today's episode of the Footglish Podcast. If you like this episode, hey, I don't know if you liked it. I have no idea. Why not leave a comment and tell me, hey, Zdenek, I liked this part. I like this phrase, this idiom, or say which one you didn't like or whatever. It's up to you, but leave a comment below this video. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.